All right, man, listen. We are welcoming you to our next episode of Merely
Merely
Misunderstood.
misunderstood.
Man, we want to thank y'all for the love that we've been getting. Man, I mean, it lets us know that we kind of doing something. I've read through many comments saying, we're doing something that you guys really want to see. So we just ask that you guys bear with us as we perfect this and become better at our craft.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to just dive straight in. Man, I guess over the last couple of weeks, well, let's back up.
Okay.
We were supposed to record what
Mm.
last week,
Yes.
and then we had this crazy storm come through, and so we had no power. We was without power for a few days, and so it kind of set back some things. But we ready to kind of get back into the flow of things and just get things rolling.
And thank you to everybody that was out there working on the power lines, working out there, cleaning up debris. Like those jobs are hard jobs, and I appreciate everybody that was out there getting it for us.
Definitely, definitely. So let's dive into our topic for this episode, and the topic for this episode is um, accountability demands vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. As I was on this kind of just like this journey of reflecting and becoming whole and becoming better, one of the things that I myself had to deal with was I made some mistakes and did some things that I had to learn it was okay to say I didn't handle that the right way.
Right.
And that in the process, I might have mishandled some people trying to protect me or salvage me,
Right.
right? It wasn't intentional. I think we all go through these seasons when we think we can handle it, and then um, we realize along the way that maybe we didn't have it figured out the way that we thought we did. And what I had to learn in this season is that it was okay to say I messed up,
Mm.
but I had to own it.
Right.
Like, I feel like so many people give these unsincere blanketed apologies without owning the fact that I messed up.
Right. But I feel like sometimes we can't really um somebody can't just tell me I messed up. It has to be a self analysis and like a self reflection on, okay, how could I handle this better? And then you start to see the places where you messed up. And then you can go back and, because if somebody tells you you messed up, it's like telling kids, go to that person that you sorry for what?
Because you don't think you did anything wrong.
Right.
Or you not so much, and let me let
Or
me
you
let me clarify that.
justify what you did wrong because I was like, oh, well, I had to take something out. So this, I had to do this for me.
And let me clarify. It's not just the fact that sometimes I'm not sincere because I don't think I did something wrong. Sometimes it's not sincere because you can't even see what you did wrong.
Right.
Right? Like it took me it took me having a moment of silence to really reflect to say I handled that person wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now that was the first part of the journey. But the second part was after I realized I handled them wrong, now I got to be vulnerable enough, transparent enough, as some of us would say, real enough to go back to that person and say, man, you know what? I messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I mishandled you.
How
Is
can I fix this?
how can I fix it? And is
Yeah.
there hope for reconciliation? You can't force people to reconcile.
Right.
Like I feel like some people be trying to force. I apologize and you ought to accept it. No,
Mm.
that's not how that works.
I mean, I can accept your apology. That doesn't mean I have to continue to deal with you in that same capacity.
Not just that, I can accept your apology and still within myself say, but I'm not ready to give you room to make that mistake again.
Right.
Right? Like I see your sincerity. I see the genuineness in your apology. I see that you really realized you did something wrong. But what you did affected me in a way
Mm.
that I don't know if I'm ready to be put back in that place again. And so the reason why I kept that word vulnerability kept ringing in me is because if I be transparent, true reconciliation after like I'm being accountable and now I'm trying to reconcile really requires both of us to have some vulnerability. I have to be vulnerable enough to admit I did it wrong. And can I just be real? Vulnerable enough to admit that I did it wrong, in spite of the fact that there might be a fear in me that says, not that person gonna go tell everybody he was wrong.
The truth.
And he did this to me, right? And it wasn't that you was like saying you didn't do nothing wrong to them because you was trying to protect your ego or your personality. You really didn't see what you did wrong. Mm-hmm. But once you recognize what you did wrong, it requires you to be vulnerable enough and transparent enough to go and say, I messed up.
Right.
And wherever those chips fall, that's kind of where they land. Mm. You know, I think I scroll through social media and TikTok and Instagram, and this word accountability is constantly ringing throughout the pages. Accountability. You got to hold people accountable. But one of the things I would say for me that's crazy is even in my places in my life where I want to hold somebody accountable, when I go to God, the first person God makes accountable
is me.
It's me.
Yeah. And that's something too I was thinking about raising my children. I used to tell them, it's my first time being a parent. I don't have all the answers. So, yes, I will I will mess up. There will be things that I miss. And plus it was one of me against all of y'all. Like, come on now. I missed a lot of things, and as they got older, I think they were able to realize that, but I had to like really forgive myself because I mishandled myself trying to make sure that I fit into everybody's box of expectations they had, where I lost like me. I lost the things I used to want to do, or the things that I desired to do, really, because I was so focused on making sure that they had or they did things that I didn't do. So I had to take accountability. Like, yeah, that wasn't just them. That was me too. It was me stepping in a situation or doing other things to make up for what I felt like they didn't have.
And I could so relate to that point when you was talking about how I'm new at this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when in different seasons of our lives, sometimes we mishandle people, and the reason we mishandle them is because we've encountered a season we have never encountered before, and we don't have the answers. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, some of our response is impulsive. So we didn't even have time to seek an answer. We just did something.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, you hear that terminology of fight or flight, right? Like, we have people who are fighters, and no matter what the obstacle, the situation come in their way, they're going to fight through it. And then you have flighters, and those are people who, when obstacles and situations arise in their life, they run. And the truth of the matter is, both of them have pros and cons. Because there are times when you find yourself in seasons of your life you've never experienced before, you find yourself fighting with people when you shouldn't be fighting, you should be listening.
Right.
But then on the flip side, when you are a fighter, there are seasons when you run away from some people in seasons that you really should be drawing them closer. Because the truth is while isolation is good, even in our isolation, there are still people God has assigned to us in those seasons in which we're in. And sometimes in our pursuit to silence the noise and to get away from the chaos, we push away the people that God assigned to us in those seasons. And so for me, I just realized as I was reflecting, man, like, I wish I could go back and do it different in this particular or some of these particular situations. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that situation also exposed some things in me that I want to deal with so that I can be better in those places.
Right.
Like, I want to have the wisdom, I want to have the maturity to go into a season and maximize my experience in that season, because I'm aware now, because I made a mistake and I fell in a hole, and now I'm aware of that hole. So if I ever go into a situation or a season like that again, I know to not make those same mistakes.
Mm.
And so it's crazy though, because let me tell you, social media will have you pulled in 50 million different directions.
It's a distraction. That's why I told you I don't watch TV. Because, I see people all the time. They'll be on their way to do something and get stopped in their tracks because something is on TV that has caught their attention in that little bit of time. And then you wonder where the rest of your day is gone. Or you sitting on your phone and you just scrolling. And you're wondering why the rest of your day is gone. And you're wondering why your business isn't off the ground. And you're wondering why your kids are doing the same thing that you're doing. They're repeating the same habits. Because it's easy to get distracted if you don't stay on task of what you're supposed to be doing or what you need to do. And you fall into those distractions.
But for me, it's even bigger than that. And I'm going to just rip the Band-Aid, right? Being a male and being a black male, you get on social media and there's 500 different people telling you what being a man should look like.
Oh, yeah.
And what being a black man should look like. And what is soft and what is toxic and what is strong. So much so that if you are trying to find your identity by reading what culture is saying, sometimes you'll get lost in the information that you don't even realize that God made each of us a different way. And I can't go to the world or to the internet or to social media to find my identifiers. No, I don't want to be toxic. But at the same time, I want to be in tune enough with my emotions that when it's time for me to be vulnerable enough to say, I made a mistake and I'm sorry, that I'm not so toxic and so just caught into myself that I don't even realize that toxicity is doing somebody else damage.
I think people just come numb to it. Like, you see it happen all the time and you think this is normal. This is the normal thing. This is the normal response. Or it's desensitized you to people's emotions. Seeing somebody's crying doesn't bother you anymore. Or seeing somebody discomfort doesn't bother people anymore. So it's just watered down. People don't know how to really deal with their self, because if I really show you how I feel or I really give you insight into me, how do I know you're not going to weaponize it? How I know that you're not going to use what I said against me when I was having a vulnerable moment with you? When I'm letting you in on like experiences that I've had, how do I know that you ain't just going to tell the world or tell somebody that'll, use it to my detriment? So
I guess I'm saying that to say that on this journey to discovering me, like one of the things that I really had to do was silence the distractions so that I could say, I'm going to do this because I know this is the right thing to do and this is my conviction. Some people don't feel like they need to go back and cross a bridge and fix what they broke or be vulnerable enough and transparent enough to say, I messed up. But for me, my life demanded that. And so because it demanded it, I had to walk it out, even if at the end of it, the world saw me as ignorant, the world saw me as soft or weak. They could have saw me as whatever they chose. The journey for me was, I need to fix that. And it wasn't like savior mentality or I need to fit. It was, I did something wrong there. And I need to take responsibility for it. And I need to fix it. I've watched so many people go through seasons and in those seasons hurt people and then not justify it, but try to say, oh, well, I was doing what was best for me. I get it. But sometimes there was a better way to do what was best for me in a way that didn't damage those people that have been rocking with me for a long time.
Right. I also too know that I went through a phase of forgiving people that I would never that have never said they were sorry for what they did to me. And it was crazy because I sent I sent out the I forgive you. And then heard nothing back. But I had to be okay with because I wasn't doing it for you to tell me that you were actually sorry. I was doing it because it had to free me in a place. And then after I went through that season of I forgive you, there was a would you forgive me to some other people, you know? So and to truly hear how you affected somebody else's life when you were going through a season and you were mishandling them, it's like heartbreaking because I did not know I was even doing that to you because it's like so I want to say it's almost parallel. You know what I'm saying? You're going through your thing, but the way that you're going through your thing is still affecting this person. So you're still traveling around on this road. And at one point, when you turn back to tell that person, I'm sorry, now you get to hear about the whole road that they were traveling alongside of you, but not connected to you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you hear like, okay, yeah, when you were going through that, yeah, I was going through this too. And I really wish that I had my friend, you know what I'm saying? That I could confide in, but we just weren't there at that time. We weren't in that moment. And I felt like you were mishandling me in this, so I had to step back. But that also brings to the light of understanding that not only when I'm going through something do I have to be able to work on me, but also still be the community that God has called me to be and still allow other people to come to me and other me to intercede for other people, pray for them. And even when I'm going through my own mess, even when I'm going through my own struggle, I have to still be able to.
But if I be honest, that's hard.
It is.
And it's hard because sometimes you find yourself going through a season and it's weird. There are people all around you, and the mind and the enemy have you so focused on your situation that you don't even realize you're not alone.
Yeah, but then, like when you're in some of those seasons, it's like, God, I asked you to do that for me. You doing it for Karen or for Susie. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing you do it for them, but why you missing me? Like, you see me sitting in this season, and then he'll also send you to pray for somebody that is in your same season. Like, like I know it. I know the season you're going through because I'm experiencing it right now. And so we're like both in it, and we are in the fight together. So that's like the two different perspectives. I see you doing it for this person, but now I'm also in the fight with another person. So it's like you're really not alone. God aligns you with people, but the thing about it is some people are so prideful is not the word. Private, and they don't want to say this is what I'm going through.
And I'm gonna tell you something. It's crazy you say that because it makes me think of a time when I was going through that season and my marriage was falling apart, right? I remember a couple asking me to like counsel them. And at first I had given every explanation and excuse to disqualify myself. I'm like, how can I give counsel when I'm going through? And God was like, no, I need you to do this. Like, what? He's like, yeah, I need you to do this. And I remember us walking it out. And it's a joy even to this day to see them in their blessing, because for me, it just reaffirmed me. You might have messed up, but it doesn't mean you don't know how to do it right. It doesn't mean you don't know how to walk that thing out, right? And so, but again, going back to that initial statement, it was really crazy though, because even in those moments when I'm not physically alone, because there are people in and out checking on you. There's people calling you to check on you and see if you're okay. In your mind and in your spirit, there's still this feeling like I'm doing this by myself. And if I just be like 100% honest, I found myself sometimes also saying, and God, where are you? Right? Like, we started off this conversation talking about being accountable and vulnerable with people. But what happens when it requires you to be accountable with God and vulnerable enough to say, God, I messed up that season. I messed up in that season, but I'm also mad because I feel like low key, you could have fixed that. Yeah, you could have fixed that.
You set me up to fail. Where was my ram in the bush?
Yes.
You said I would have a ram in the bush.
Yes.
I didn't see no ram.
And so it required me, even in my prayer time, to be vulnerable enough to say, not only to say, God, I'm angry with you. Yeah, people do that all the time, right?
Yeah.
But it was to be vulnerable enough to say, God, I messed that season up.
Yeah.
And I'm just being honest. If you give me another chance.
Yeah, like spin that back.
Yeah.
Spin that back for me, Lila. I got it this time.
If you run that back, I'm going to do better this time than I did the last time. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't even paying the level of attention I should have been paying in that season. And so you was giving me warnings. Mm-hmm. You was giving me signs. But if I just keep it 100, I was so caught up in the season, I didn't catch any of them. And being caught up in the season goes both ways. Because you can be caught up in a good season and miss the pitfalls. Yeah. Or you can be caught up in the pitfalls and miss the breakthroughs. Yeah. And so for me, it was like in that season, I was so caught up in the pitfalls, I didn't even see, not just talking about the ram in the bush, the rams in the bush. Yeah. I didn't see the provisions. I didn't see the fact that it was bad, but it could have been worse. They weren't. I didn't even realize it could have been worse. If I just be honest, until I was done. And I started talking to other people who was going through what I had been going through, and they were like,
man, that's nothing.
I was like, that's nothing. I'm like, what you mean?
I was homeless, sleeping in my car.
I was like, God, I ain't even gonna lie. You know what, God? I had to circle. God, thank you.
Right.
That season was rough. It was definitely rough. But God, thank you, because that season could have been worse.
Yeah. But you know what? It's funny that we can say, like, God, please run that back and I'm going to get it right. But when he run it back and you fumble in another area, you're like, dang, I didn't see that one. And then he run it back again. You was like, And it was like, okay. So I was like, dang, how many times I'm going to have to keep doing this? He was like, till you pass this test.
But can I show you something? I'm going to tell you. Here's the kicker. Because the test, you fail it and you think the retake is going to be the exact same exam.
Yes.
It is not. He reworded the questions.
Yes.
He sent new people.
A new person.
He rearranged the chain of events. And he's like, okay, if you really learn from it. I used to hate when teachers used to say that. They're like, if you really know this information, it don't matter where I put it.
Yeah,
you're going to get it right.
Yeah.
And in the truth of the matter is 90% of the time, the biggest part of the lesson isn't in the details. Yeah. It's really just in the obedience.
It's trusting. Because you be like, is that right though? Like, I remember something like that, but you like overthinking and analyzing. He like, it's B even us. He be like, but
it could be C though.
But B and C look similar. They got the same wording, but one word is off. So
and I'm not even gonna lie to you. If we be honest, be like, I know you telling me B is it. I know it could be C.
But C look real good.
But God, I want A. I want it to be A. A is I'm telling you, A is the realest answer. And
No,
half the time,
no.
they're like,
A
no.
is shaped like I like it.
Yeah.
Smell like I like it.
Sound like I like it.
I mean, talk to me like I like to be talked to. You be like,
And you just don't even
Lord,
know.
I'm about to fall.
A is a hindrance. He's like, B is the answer. And so, man, listen, but not just accountable to God, not just accountable to friends, but can I be honest? Sometimes we got to take the time to take accountability and be vulnerable with ourselves and say, you know, in that season, I messed up. And in some of my seasons when I messed up, it wasn't because I didn't have enough faith in God. It was that I didn't have enough faith in me.
Right.
There were some things that God told me I could do that I just didn't believe I could do.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted it, but I just didn't believe I could do it. It's no different than this podcast.
Right.
I felt like I had to have all of the right equipment and all the right lights and all the right sound because I got to be able to really sell myself in this market when the truth of the matter is you're called to who you're called to. And because of that, if I would have been shooting it on a phone and that's all I had, but the people God called me to reach was their need were being met, the objective of the mission is being accomplished.
Yeah.
And so I got to be accountable enough to me, to be vulnerable enough to me to say, why do I not have faith in myself in that place? Why do I not trust, not God, because I trust that God told me I could have it, but I also know God told me I had to do something to get it.
But I think that too becomes because like we fail. We start something and it crumbles. And then we're like, that's hot. I don't want to touch that anymore. So since we fail in that situation or in that place, it makes us sensitive when God says, just do it. You be like, but guys, you remember like a year ago when you told me to do that and I started working it and all my funds was gone and all my friends left and all of these things happen and then it's like, let me pull back. And then he's telling, do it. Like, nah, I remember that. I remember that pain. I remember that time. I remember that. So it's...
But you realize if we really stopped and looked at it though, everything that we could ever want comes with a challenge.
Comes with pain.
Like you might not observe the challenge. Having families come with challenges.
Having children comes with pain.
Starting businesses
comes with pain.
Challenges. Like
you said challenges. I'm saying pain.
Like, and so it the truth is if you really accepted that, like I back up. I used to ask myself all the time when I looked through the Bible. There was so many places in the Bible where God told a person where he was going to end up, but never told him what he had to go through to get there. But I would always say to myself, because I feel like if God told them what they had to go through to get it, they're like, you know what, God, don't worry about it. I ain't got to go in the pit. You ain't got to take me to prison. I ain't got to go through all of that stuff. I'm going to keep bringing my brothers dinners while they work out in the field, and I'm going to call it a day, you know? Yeah. But the reality is anything that I desire to go after is going to come with some challenges.
Pain.
I'm calling them challenges. Apparently they pain, but I'm calling them challenges.
I'm going to be crying.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of extra.
And if I just be honest, obedience comes with challenge.
Yeah.
You know, we live in this fast-paced microwave world where we get on social media, we get on YouTube, we get on Instagram, and we see people's success stories, and we assume that these successes happened overnight. But I love that we're in this transparent season where some of these people are not coming out and saying, man, I'm not even gonna lie to you. This is all the stuff I went through to get there.
Yeah.
Like all of that. I made it look good because, you know, we like to say that. I made that season look good. You know, I made that season.
I'm glad I don't look like what I've been through.
Yeah, right? we say that. But the reality is that the truth still is that in that season, there were some challenges or some pain.
Some pain.
And so I want to, like, I don't know. If you're watching this, I want to encourage you in understanding that vulnerability does not come without challenges. It does not come without pain. But the beauty in it is it does
birth something
foster
out of you.
growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does birth a growth in an area that if we be transparent, we need.
Right.
Independently, we need. Globally, we need. Collectively, we need. We need to get to a place where we can be transparent enough to say, I messed up.
Right.
I don't know why that is so hard, but I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if it's a pride thing, but I will tell you, we have to get to a place where we can say, I messed up. And not because it's going to make me look good. Not because I can make a good video or make a good content post out of saying, I messed up, but I fixed it. No. No, you need to fix it because it's the right thing to do. You need to be vulnerable and reconcile because it's the right thing to do. Because the truth of the matter is, you don't know whose life you got bound up because you won't be obedient and be vulnerable to say, I hurt you. And it wasn't intentional. But now that I am conscious and aware of what I did, I want to give you some peace in saying, I see what I did to you. I'm sorry. Trust me, that their thing is not going to happen again. Because the truth of the matter is, for many people or for some people, it takes so much energy to foster up the apology.
Yeah.
That you're not going to, you just don't want to apologize for something you're going to have to apologize for again later.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't want to. So if I done got to the place where I'm ready to acknowledge I did something wrong and I'm ready to apologize for it, I can't speak for other people. But I know for me, when I got to the place where I'm ready to apologize for something because I realized I did something wrong to you, when I come to you apologizing for it, it's because I don't plan on doing that no more.
Yeah.
Because it took so much out of me to come, not to be apologetic, because apologizing ain't hard, but
to me it is. I don't like apologizing.
For me, it's not. You're silly. For me, it's not hard, but some of those seasonal situations, apologizing for those have been hard.
Mm.
But at the same time, I've been aware enough to say, but I'm apologizing because I don't ever plan on doing that to you again.
That's true. But after the apology, you have to be willing to do whatever they feel like you need to do to.
I don't know.
Yes,
we get ready to have our first disagreement.
I know, but I feel like you can't tell. I can't tell you how to forgive me. I can't. Like, yeah, even if you like, this is my. If I wronged you, and I say, okay, so what is it going to take? Like, let's say cheating. Cheating.
I agree with you.
That's what I'm saying.
Wait. I agree with you. The reason I said our first disagreement on the podcast is because I don't want nobody to think that now because I've apologized to you, that you got some leverage on me.
No, I don't owe you like that. I'm talking about like, I can't.
That you don't have some leverage on me that now I'm indebted to you.
No.
No. If you tell me you need space, I'll give you space.
Right.
If you tell me you need to hear from me more, I'll call you more.
Right.
But you can't tell me I need you to stand on your right foot.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Bounce up and down, spin around 3 times. No.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about.
I didn't think that's what you meant, but I don't want nobody to see this and get the wrong impression. Like, oh, what we're saying, when the person wrongs you, this is your come up season.
No,
you get to say, oh, well, you owe me this and you owe me this. No, that's not it.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can't tell them what forgiveness looks like.
Yep.
They have to be able to tell you what forgiveness looks like.
Yep. I agree. Meaning
consistency. Meaning,
but also, what is that going to
communication?
What is going to look like for me moving forward?
Right.
I'm not going. I know when we was partners, I talked to you 5 days a week. You're not going to hear from me 5 days a week.
Right.
Got to start off slow. You might get 1 or 2 calls a month.
Right.
I need to see what you're going to do with them 1 or 2 calls.
Right.
Can I trust you not to run off with the information and start gossiping and talking about it? Oh, now I can talk to you a little bit more. Right. Reestablishing the trust.
Right.
You don't get to say I'm sorry. And then the
we
house
just supposed
is just
to act
restored.
like, nothing happened. But that's why I said you have to be able to have a healthy conversation about, okay, what does it look like with each other?
I agree. I just think we have to get to the place where, again, that vulnerable word, we're ready to be vulnerable enough to put our feelings out there. Because I'll tell you this, one of my fears when it was time for me to start the process of accountability, the fear was rejection. And the crazy part about it is that rejection looks different or feels different to the person feeling rejected, even though the person that they may be feeling rejected by might not even be rejecting them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like I've already hyped myself up that this person ain't gonna want to fool with me no more. Or this person ain't gonna want to deal with me no more.
Like, ooh, I don't. It was so bad. I
don't even need to say I'm sorry because they not even gonna want to talk to me no more anyway.
They own with their life. They done moved. That don't matter.
No.
You still gotta go in
and own it.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, for me, owning it was so liberating. It was free. And the reason it was free was because I was able to step even further into my truth. Mm. And that truth is I can say now that, like, very boldly, that I know how to fix or how to start the process to fixing it when I make a mistake and I hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. When you were kids, you thought I'm sorry and a Band-Aid fixed everything. Then you get grown and you realize that it's a little more work than that. Mm-hmm. It takes a little bit more. Not only does it take vulnerability, but it takes consistency. Right. It takes me to show up and to constantly show up and to show up in the right spirit and to show up the way you asked me to show up.
Not just the way I want to.
Mm-hmm. You tell me the way you need me to show up is talking to you once or twice a month. If that's what you need to start, if it's really what I want, mm-hmm. then that's where I got to start. And I think, like what you would have been saying throughout a lot of this is that you got to give people room to say what they need and not force them to take what it is you've decided you're going to give them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you this apology and we're going to keep moving on. Right? Like, I'm going to say I'm sorry and you're going to say I receive that. Sometimes people going to say I don't receive it.
Right. And that's their choice.
And what are you going to do with that?
You got to be okay. You got to be okay with that because the apology wasn't for that. The apology was to let them know, man, I messed up.
And I recognize it.
And I recognize I messed up. Even with yourself, man, I messed up and I recognize that. You may not know what the next step is. But admitting that, hey, I messed up. Like, I have literally gone to God and was like, I know I messed up. I don't know what my next step is.
I have found myself in so many seasons where I had to say, God, I messed up. And then I didn't even know what the next step was. Mm-hmm. And the crazy part about it is a few of them times, the next step was right where we left off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that thing that I
told you to finish.
I need you to, or that I told you to start.
Yeah.
I need you to start that thing. It's like, and it's weird because I feel like in this season we're so in pursuit of fame, wealth, and fortune, mm-hmm. right? That when God tells us to do things now, so many times we are already trying to figure out how that's gonna make me wealthy,
right?
How that's gonna make me rich,
or how's it gonna benefit me? It may not be to benefit you.
It may not even be about you.
It's not about you all the time. It's about somebody else. I'll 89% of the time it's about somebody else.
And it's crazy you say that because so many things that we've even experienced in our marriage in this short time of being married
has been for somebody else. Guarantee we going through something. Something happened between us and we worked through it. The next day or the next couple days, somebody's like, oh, this is what's going on. Like, girl, you just don't know. We just had this situation. And this is what
we got out of it. This is what God showed us.
This is how we responded. Yep. And this is what we did. Like, it's the transparency of saying we have moments. We have things going on. And this is what we did. And this is how we worked through it. Or these are some tools to help you work through it. Like, it never fails that what God has going through your life is for somebody else. It just don't stop with you. So, but if you stop sharing it, if you start holding your knowledge, your information, your wisdom to yourself, you ain't helping nobody.
And let me say something this to you too. Transparency is not a sign of weakness.
No.
I feel like some people think being transparent exposes me. It only exposes me when I'm scared of what being transparent releases.
Mm-hmm.
But I talk about having a marriage that didn't work and playing a part in it. I talk about being a single parent in a season of my life and messing it up. Like not messing it up like did the wrong things, but just was too soft sometimes, too easy sometimes, too laid back sometimes. I've talked about starting businesses and getting some right and getting some wrong. Like, but I'm only able to talk about those things because I own them.
Right.
They don't own me.
Right.
I learned from them. I didn't fail at them. You know what I mean? Like I own them. I admit I could have done better here. I admit I could have done something different here. But the truth of the matter is, as we've said, even in our first episode, hindsight is 20/20. And so I'm either gonna learn the lessons, own the seasons, learn the lessons, and help somebody not make the same mistakes I made, or I'm gonna watch you walk into a hole I stepped into because my pride has said I don't want to be transparent or I don't want to be vulnerable enough to say
there's
a hole right there. How you know? Because I fell in it.
Right. And then you be like, you just watching. Yeah, there 2 more steps. Hole.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, why didn't you tell me? Well, I had to learn my own way. Might as well learn your own way.
No.
But that's not how we should live our lives. We should live our lives helping other people. Like if I can stand somebody else up on my shoulders and give you all the information that I have learned, I would. Because I want you to be better than me. Just like our children. We don't raise them to start where we started. No, we do what we do so they can have a better life. So they can have better choices. So they can
options.
Yeah, like come on, advance in life. From my experiences, sit down, talk to me. I'm telling you, I haven't always been my age. I was your age at one point in my life.
Landmine.
Yeah.
2 landmines.
I know what red flags look like.
Yep.
Okay, seen plenty. I probably been some at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, come on.
So we just, again, we've got to get to a place where we're able to be honest enough with ourselves and with others to say, I messed up. Here's how I messed up. Apologize. But then also take all of those same steps and apply them to your faith, apply them to your friends, apply them to your family.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of all,
apply it to yourself.
Apply it to yourself. Because it's okay to say, self, I messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in this season in my life because I messed up.
I put myself here. Not the devil made me do it.
No. I did this.
I did this to myself.
I did this.
In my choices.
Mm-hmm. And guess what? Self, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. And don't hold yourself to that. Like you taught me that. Don't, like, how long are you going to constantly beat up yourself over something that you did 4 or 5 years ago?
And you know what's crazy? Something God has forgiven you for.
Mm-hmm.
Something even the people who you have wronged have forgiven you for.
Mm-hmm.
And you still beating yourself up about it.
Over the head like a pinata.
I'm going to tell you why sometimes. Let me tell you why we do this sometimes. Because sometimes we be saying to ourselves, I was better than that.
Yeah.
And the reality is that mentality is really what made you fall in the first place. It was that whole, I'm better than that. I'm better than this. Yeah.
That arrogance.
That
about
arrogance
yourself.
is what got me in that situation.
Yeah.
And so the truth is that accountability and vulnerability is not a one-time moment. It's not a brief thing. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I have to live a lifestyle of accountability. I have to live a lifestyle where I'm vulnerable with God. I'm vulnerable with myself. And I'm vulnerable with the people God has called me to be vulnerable with. I have to live a lifestyle of that. And the more that I practice it, the more it becomes natural.
But like how you said, God has called you to be weak because you can't be
Yeah,
vulnerable.
you can't be vulnerable with everybody.
Can't let everybody know your business.
No,
okay?
no.
Because not everybody that is
And it's some
around listening is listening to be good for you.
And it's some people expecting apologies you don't owe them to.
Yeah.
Like, listen, it's some people you owe apologies to. You gotta own them. You gotta be vulnerable. You gotta take
it on the chin.
But it's some people expecting apologies for you doing what you were supposed to do.
Right.
You got a partner, and every time y'all around, he's scheming, talking about drugs and robbing banks, and he was like, man, you know what? You just ghosted me. Now I'm in jail. Yeah, if I wouldn't have ghosted you, be in jail next to you.
But now if you're a bank robber and you somebody that like to scheme, hang around them type of people. But if that ain't your calling, if that ain't your ministry, that's not what you need to
leave it to the people who want to, go to prison.
There are people that are professional schemers, robbers.
They not called to it either. Deliver them. They not called to it either. The reality is, though, is that we have just got to get to a place where we understand that the best mentor advice you can have or get is seek God.
Right.
You trying to figure out how to maneuver the misstep? Seek God.
Like that slogan. What would Jesus do?
Because the hardest part about it is excuse me, when you go to God, one of the things that I have discovered is whenever I go to God about somebody else,
He deal with me first.
He always deal with me first.
Yeah.
And I want to be the best form of myself that I can possibly be. And in order to do that, I got to be vulnerable. I got to be accountable. But I also got to be willing to change. Well, man, I know we could stay in this situation and in this conversation all day, but the reality is at some point it's got to end.
I got to go to bed.
We all got to go to work in the morning.
Amen to that.
So, listen, follow us. Go to the YouTube channel. Subscribe. Click the buttons. Click the links. Follow us. There's going to be more content like this. But we just being honest. You're going to hear some stories where we just take you through some of the places where we messed up. We'll have some people sitting on this couch talking to you about seasons where they messed up. And people have misunderstood them and people have mishandled them. And they have misunderstood and mishandled some people. We enjoyed y'all. We hope that you enjoyed us. Like I said, like, subscribe,